Hey, Bryan, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out. Thanks for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm curious. Helen said that many restaurants choose to toss these crayons out after one use. Why do you think that is? Is that a health department thing? Or?
It's not really a department thing. It's actually more of a legal thing. If a kid got sick from a crayon that had salmonella, or your kid wipes their nose and then puts it down and gets reused, it's just easier than a lawsuit.
And so that seems daunting, but you had this aha moment. You're out to celebrate your birthday with your family, and you figured there must be a way. What's the first thing you did?
Pretty much asking, as Helen said, talking with the waitress of what do they do with these. My background supply chain and packaging, so it's one of those, free materials, what can we do with it? So went home, didn't sleep that night, woke up about 4 a.m, started investigating if anybody did this, because I gotta believe somebody did and nobody did. So we started to figure out how to do it more.
Yeah, that's wild. So there's a physical process for repurposing and redistributing them. And then there's the question about where to send them, and what led you to give them to kids who are ill or in the hospital?
We had a connection with a child life specialist at UCSF Children's Hospital. And the more that I researched hospitals, the way that their budgets work, Child Life, it's who we give to, they don't get a budget from the hospital because they can't bill. And they actually make it as normal as possible for the child. So it's a pretty important role. And I learned that talking to 1 hospital, 2 hospitals, 3 hospitals, they gave the exact same story. So that it was a good fit for us to then donate to.
Yeah, and they had the ability to disseminate them inside the hospital. Once they had the materials, they could spread them.
Correct. Yeah, and they use crayons today, but it's one of those things that for them, because there is no budget, they would buy the bulk pack, so a kid would get 1, 2, 3 crayons, all random colors without getting a full pack. So one of the first things that we heard back from our crayons have 8 colors in it, that they could make fairies and princesses and superheroes with getting the whole pack of crayons. So the hospitals were very excited to receive our crayons.
So it's funny because on the one hand, this seems, kind of light as a story. But when you're talking about kids in the hospital, kids who are going through illness or injury, I bet there is some at least anecdotal evidence that supports the fact that these things are making a difference in these kids' lives.
They are. And you think about the crayons from a light side of it, but at the end of the day, the kids aren't going through something that's light, and they need an escape from that.
Right.
And we get pictures. I have pictures up on our wall in our shop of 5 kids, and 2 have passed, and the parents have written me after the fact saying, "Thank you, this is the last time I saw my child smile."
Wow.
So that's kind of our drive and why we keep doing it.
Wow.
It's pretty heavy sometimes.
Yeah. And so how did your design and packaging and supply chain expertise fit into this whole picture?
So basically, starting with the crayon itself, I designed a three-dimensional model of a crayon and had kids hold it, worked with an occupational therapist. We made it skinnier and longer and fatter and shorter and all these different things until the kids felt comfortable holding that crayon. So it started there, and then working with all the different packaging of how we store the raw crayons, we make them 1 color at a time. So how do we store all the reds until we're ready to pack them? How do the packing all fit? And it's been pretty funny though, like we have the main story with that is there's a box that each of our molds have 96 crayons in it. So when you pull them out, you put them in that box to wait till later when you pack them in the 8-pound. And everybody says they're never gonna fit. And I'm like, just trust me, this is my job. And then, sure enough, every time it's like, oh, they do.
Yeah. I'm a little nervous about this question. Do we want to know what crayons are made out of?
It's paraffin wax, petroleum based. So that's part of the problem is they don't biodegrade in a landfill. So every time there's one going to the landfill, it just sits there. And 100 years from now, it'll still be a crayon.
Wild. I don't know, why did I think there was like beef tallow or something in some crayon? I thought there was
There's some talc and some other things as fillers, but that's about it.
Okay, good. They're vegetarian, albeit petroleum product. Yeah.
It'll go in the same way it comes out.
Yeah, okay. That's so wild. And so you're going back to the source of this stuff. There's all these restaurants that do this. Is it hard for the restaurants to harvest the used crayons and then get them into your hands? How does that work?
They contact us. We have actually full programs for restaurants, schools, scouts, et cetera, on how to collect them, how to ship them to us. And so from there, we try to make it as easy for them as possible. And we evolved it. I mean, certainly the first year, we spent time with some local restaurants that I had contacts at to just make sure that if they were all the way across the country, would this system work? Mm-hmm. And we evolved it. It took a long time to evolve it, but it's a pretty good system now.
Yeah. Do you have some volunteers to help you do this?
We have lots of volunteers.
Yeah.
Just locally, we have about 2,500 volunteers.
Wow. In the Bay Area?
Yeah, consistently helping us manufacture and pack the crayons. And then if you multiply out all the different schools and ambassadors that we have around the country, we're well over 2 million volunteers.
Amazing. And are you a volunteer? How much time do you spend doing this?
I am a volunteer. I do not pull a salary yet from it. I work about 60 hours a week on it.
Wow. So and it's growing.
It's growing drastically, yeah.
And other than the stories that you hear back from occasionally a parent or something, do you hear from the healthcare professionals too, the doctors, that this is a system that's really enhancing the well-being of their patients?
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't come as often as we'd like to hear,
right?
Just because we're always trying to get quotations and stuff to put on as a nonprofit. But we definitely hear from them in their thank you notes for every shipment. We get a handwritten thank you note from almost every hospital.
Yeah. When did you start all this?
We got our 501c3 in 2014, and our first donations out to a hospital was in February of 2015.
Yeah, and how many kids do you think you've helped or provided crayons for since you started?
Over 200,000.
200,000.
Yeah, last year alone. Thank you.
That's so wild. Yeah.
You ask about growth. Since 2015's 4 years, we went from 5,000 to 10,000 to 37 to 153,000 kids last year.
That's wild. And that's also a lot of crayons that you're keeping out of the landfill, right?
Yeah, we've collected over 30 million crayons. It's about 230,000 pounds of crayons.
Wild, all just because your wife's an art teacher and you're sitting there going, what happens to these?
What happens to these?
Yeah, it's amazing. What an incredible impact. It's amazing. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thanks for doing the work you're doing, and congratulations on winning this week's eChievement Award. Before I let you go, if people want to see pictures or want to lend a hand or become volunteers, is there a website or something?
Absolutely. Check out our website, thecrayoninitiative.org.
Crayonininitiative.org.
You got it.
Congratulations, Bryan. That's Bryan Ware, Crayon Initiative, founder, chief volunteer.
Thank you.
Packaging engineer. It's a great story. Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.